Porsche release a new 911 and people lose their minds. That's right, the new Carrera T was launched about a week back, and since then the internet has been awash with superlative nonsense about how this car is at last a driver-focused 911. What 911 isn't driver-focused? So, spoiler alert, it's a trap. That's right, the Carrera T is not a replacement 911R, nor is it the super light, purest 911 that we've all been waiting for, or any of the other hype that has been spun around. It is a base Carrera with some very nice tweaks. But just like everything Porsche does, they make it either perfect and no one can buy it, or they make it almost perfect and you can have as many as you like. But first, a bit of history. Where does the T name come from? It was the original budget 911 back in the late 60s, early 70s. The 911T was like the low-end 911. It replaced the 912. It had about 110 horsepower. So yeah, it's always been the budget model, and I don't see this new Carrera T as a budget model. But it's nice to have a bit of heritage. And the Carrera T brings the 911 range to an even 22 models, and yet still people can't find the 911 that's perfect for them. So reading all the articles that have been written about the Carrera T over the last week, I've noticed that the focus has been on the weight savings. Well, the weight savings is 11 pounds. It can be more if you take out the seats and the PCM, but 11 pounds. That's a fat baby in a fillet of fish. No one is ever going to notice, but maybe they'll be impressed with the fabric door handles. And to put this in perspective, the weight difference between, say, a Carrera S and a Targa 4S is 380 pounds. You know, that's two of me in a fillet of fish. But you don't see people running around high-fiving Carrera S owners for owning a lightweight purist model. That said, there are some nice additions to the Carrera T. The bucket seats, for example, which is pretty rare here in the US. Normally they're reserved for the GT models. The rear axle steering, I don't know how many people are ever going to notice the difference there. Certainly at the edge of its handling, there is a big difference, but for most people, they just like the better turning circle that the rear axle steering gives them. And of course, the really cool fabric interiors. I do like a new fabric interior, and the Model T has some of the nicest yet. So yeah, if you're going to buy one of these, definitely get the new fabric interior. They look fantastic. The real winners, however, are the lower ratio gears and the new rear differential. That will make a big difference to this car. Unquestionably, however, the best thing about the T is that it is a base Carrera. And there's two reasons why that's so good. Firstly, it makes it more affordable. $100,000 for a special 911 is amazing. But secondly, it gives you that 370 horsepower base engine. This engine is a misunderstood gem within the range. People are obsessed with horsepower these days, and so they don't realize that that 370 horsepower base Carrera engine is the most fun engine within the 911 range, excluding the naturally aspirated engines. Yes, that's right. It is definitely more fun than the S engine, the GTS engine, and the turbo engines. And there are two reasons for that. First one is, too much horsepower actually makes sports cars boring. I know, blow your mind. How could that be, Nick? More horsepower has to be better. It's just not the case. For example, if you drive a Turbo S and a base Carrera back to back, I guarantee you, you have more fun in the base Carrera because you're actually driving the car. You're actually pushing the car. The Turbo S is a phenomenal piece of engineering, but they're so boring to drive most of the time. Unless you're out on the Autobahn every day or drag racing Corvettes, you never get to use that power. You never get to push that car. And so they become really boring cars to drive. Whereas the base model Carrera, you can put your foot down often. You really get to push that car. It's a lot more fun to drive. Secondly, and even more importantly, the 370 horsepower base engine is the most responsive. It behaves the most like a naturally aspirated engine of any of the turbo engines in the range. Even the difference between the base engine and the engine in my car, the S engine, it's noticeable. My engine feels elasticy and laggy compared to the base engine. And as you go up the range, it just gets worse and worse. You got the GTS 450 horsepower engine, you notice more lag, you notice that it's a little bit more elasticy, it's not as responsive. And even up in the turbo and the Turbo S engines, it's even worse still. Sure, you're getting a heck of a lot more power and torque, and that's fun, but at the end of the day, I'd much rather have a responsive, predictable engine over a massively powerful engine. And for me, the 300 to 400 horsepower range is the sweet spot for an engaging sports car. So what are we missing to make this Carrera T the perfect 911? Well, just a few small things. Firstly, limiting the range of colours. Why do they do that? I don't get it. Secondly, for some reason they've stripped out all the goodies in the Sport Chrono package. It's a lot cheaper, but all you're left with is the silly clock. You don't get any of the rev matching, you don't get any of the active engine mounts, you don't get any of the good stuff. I don't know why. But thirdly, and probably the most significant shortfall of the Carrera T, is the brakes. For some reason they just left the base Carrera brakes on there. They didn't even give you the option for the S brakes, the red caliper brakes. I don't know why. That to me would have just made this car perfect. Of course you can option in the carbon ceramic brakes, but they come with their own list of problems. And of course you have to pay $8,000–9,000 for those. But yeah, I think to make it perfect you probably would want to option in the ceramic brakes. But I don't understand. If they're making this a special model, why not just go that little bit further and put the decent brakes on it? Maybe it's not a big deal for a lot of people. But overall, I love the Carrera T package. What's really amazing about it is that it is finally an affordable for a 911 special model. Available to everyone. I think it's going to be enormously popular, and I think it's going to be a really fun car to drive for all the reasons I just mentioned. So here's hoping that some of you get one, and I'm really looking forward to driving one. So that's my thoughts on the Carrera T. Almost perfect. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you in the next one.